Welcome to Assault, Learn and Play, Part 6.3, Chapter 9, Movement Actions, Part 3 for Fortifications and Obstacles. So, let us talk about fortifications. Fortifications can supersede the defense bonus of the terrain they are in. This is dependent on the type of fortification and the type of unit, which is in the hex. Fortifications represented by custom-shaped markers which are placed inside a hex and orientated to a specific vertex, chosen by the owning player. Because of the shapes, these markers do have different areas of impact and arc of fire. You see this in that picture. So it's like vehicles or guns, they have an orientation. So you have a front hex, an arc of fire, and your flank hexes and rear hexes. So the arc of fire is defined, of course, by the unit which is inside this fortification and by the fortification itself. So in this bunker, of course, you have two frontal hex, and this is the arc of fire out of that bunker. Fortifications can affect a unit's movement when they are crossing it. They also give a defense bonus when a unit occupies it or a loss is traced across it. Important for reaction fire. A moving unit in a hex containing fortifications is subject to reaction fire. For this reaction fire, the unit gains the defense bonus of the terrain, not the fortification. So, the defense bonus for the fortification, a unit gets only if the movement is over and the opponent player is on its action. So I will show an example for it. So you see here all the 5 different fortifications. We go through in that video in detail. You have on the upper left, you have a trench, and you see how this is placed inside the hex. So it's aligned to a vertex. You have here sandbag position, you have a pillbox. So I can focus it. And you have a bunker. And you see this bunker full of concrete material, so it's a really tough defense position. And you have an open top bunker, like a gun position. Also really nice. So, what this important message says: if a unit is on its move, and I don't know, I have a machine gun here in the bunker. The player says, I want to move to this trench. I move 1 point and a second point because this trench is in a clear terrain, and then I'm done. Reaction fire is allowed if a player moves a unit into a new hex. Every time then you can do reaction fire. This unit is not activated, so the US player can say, I want to react on that last move into the trench. And the important note says, if this player is still active and has ended his move here with the last action moving into this hex, this gives a possibility of reaction fire. This is every time the case. This is also the case if a player moves here and ends his movement here, you can do with the last movement inside a new hex reaction fire. Same procedure here. But here is important, if we go to the defense characteristics then of this combined terrain hex. So now is a trench, and I will spoil all the rules we go through in detail. You have a hex which is clear, and you see for infantry you have green defense die only. If this unit would have been stationary inside the trench, it would have got 3 yellow defense die from a frontal attack, a yellow and a blue from a flank attack, and a yellow from a rear, and then from above you can see a yellow and a green. But okay, the important note says if a unit is reacting to an action moving into such hex, the clear terrain is counting for this reaction fire. That is what I wanted to show. So fortifications are sandbag positions, trenches, gun positions, bunkers and pillboxes. So let us go to all these fortifications in detail. Sandbag positions. Sandbag positions are quickly set up and provide a good protection for infantry and artillery units. So we have a movement impact, infantry and artillery units and their movement in the sandbag position. Vehicles and their movement in the terrain, so they cannot use the sandbag positions as cover. Defense impact, see Players 8 fortification chart. So here we go, we have a sandbag position, and now we check the fortification chart. And you see the sandbag position on the top is has a terrain defense bonus for infantry and artillery. So, and you have a movement cost for each movement type, and there's stated under infantry also the feet symbol and the artillery symbol and the and all the other symbols hex. And hex means that the movement through such a sandbag position terrain is to be figured out in the terrain chart and the hex value of the terrain in which that sandbag position is located. So let us check this out with this sandbag position. So if my infantry unit wants to move in the sandbag position and through the sandbag position to here, we have to check the terrain because of the hex here on which the sandbag position is located. So just let us do this. So we have to move in to that terrain, which is a olive grove. And you see it, infantry needs 1 point to enter. Okay, and we want to go through, so we need again a second point to move to the clear terrain. So this is a normal action. I activate with a normal action, move into the hex with the sandbag position, and if I not end my movement, I can of course go further with the second point. That's it. So we learned that infantry and artillery can use the defense bonus of that fortification. And this bonus is depending on the location from which I got fired. So this is what I said in the intro regarding the arc of fire or front, flank, rear, above. So if I decide to move inside this trench, this sandbag position, then I can get good cover from that firing machine gun on the front with 2 yellow, on the flank, which would be from here with 2 yellow, and on the rear, of course, which is here or here, only a yellow and a blue, so it's getting weaker. And if I got indirect fire from above, I have only a yellow and a blue again. The same bonus is for artillery units, and you see here nothing about vehicles, so vehicles do not get a bonus using that sandbag position. We have one more thing to explain for the sandbag position. If a vehicle is moving inside such a sandbag position, you see it on the third last row in the table, vehicle damage from terrain. So if a wheeled vehicle, like for example we have the truck, and the truck wants to cross probably a sandbag position on the clear terrain, which is more feasible. If the truck wants to cross this, first for the movement he states hex +1. So okay, I have a clear hex +1. I need 2 points to go in this terrain. So we have hex +1. Clear is for wheeled vehicles, 2 points +1, it makes 3 points, and I have to use from my truck. I have 6 movement allowance. I need half of my movement allowance to move in here. So if the truck moves into the sandbag position, it has to roll, the player has to roll for vehicle damage from that sandbag position, which is a green die, but this will be handled in a separate part dealing with vehicle-specific rules and movement. If the truck ends his movement here, he gets, of course, no defense bonus because of the sandbag position. Let's go to the trenches. Trenches are well constructed and fortified positions for infantry units. Movement impact of trenches. Infantry units end their movement in the trenches. It's an infantry specific rule, only for infantry. Vehicles and artillery units end their movement in the terrain. They do not receive any benefit from the trenches. So infantry artillery units try to avoid moving into the trenches, of course. The defense impact. See the player aid fortification chart. Let's start. So we have on that side a trench, and we learned that infantry, if it moves up, it ends its movement in the trenches. And if the action of this unit is over and the opponent player starts his action, then these rifles can use the fortification defense bonus of that trench. And it works like with the sandbag position. You have a front, flank, rear and above value. You see it in the footnote of the trench. Infantry units end the movement in the trench. Vehicles, artillery in the hex terrain. Yes, that's important for you to know. Artillery gets no bonus, vehicles too. You have the same principle for movement costs entering a trench hex. So you have to keep in mind for a wheeled vehicle it's blocked. A tracked vehicle can cross a trench, so you have the second asterisk. If movement across the trench, so across does mean, so for example, if this across means if, for example, this Panzer III wants to cross the trench, and crossing is not driving here and driving there. That's not crossing. Crossing is if you move through the frontal hex here, or if you move here, then you have to check the fortification chart, and it says hex value, it's clear, it's for tracked vehicle 1 plus 1, so you need 2 points to cross here, so I need 2 points to enter, and then I need 2 points to cross, so I need 4 points to go over this trench, which means with my movement allowance of 3 I cannot cross with a normal action, I have to do a fast action. Then I have 4 points and I can move with 2 in and 2 out. But you see, vehicle damage from terrain, it's a green dice, and probably a hex which has also a vehicle damage from terrain dice. So for example, this trench is in a rocky terrain, then you will get for tracked vehicles a yellow plus that green from the trench. If you go inside, so if you when you enter the text, you have to roll for damage, and if you move across, you have just to calculate more movement points. So vehicle damage does only account if you enter a hex with a vehicle damage, and the movement cost for each movement type with the asterisk 2 with the trench means if you move across the trench you need more points to move over. Now let us talk about gun positions. Gun positions are concrete and well covered emplacement to protect artillery units while allowing a good field of fire. The movement impact is infantry units and the movement inside the gun position. Vehicle units and their movement in the terrain hex. They do not receive any benefit from the gun position, so they can't enter the building, the fortification. Artillery units and their movement in the gun position. And for the defense impact, see player 8 chart. So I prepared a gun position down here. And you see the gun position in the fortification chart, and you see of course very well defense values in comparison to sandbag and trenches. So you have red dice, which are the best defense dice or attack dice. And you see the note, infantry and artillery and their movement in the gun position, vehicles in the hex terrain. And you have of course your movement costs, which is mostly hex or hex +1. You have a vehicle damage, only the hex in that case, because a vehicle avoids driving across such a position or in such a position. So the principle is the same. You can move in your infantry, which using then the bonus for defense, and you can of course move your artillery in and get the benefit of the defense. So nothing more to say. So you can use your vehicle. It can enter of course this hex with the gun position, but has no impact or benefit for this position because it is not interesting for this vehicle. The only impact is that if you want to enter this, you have to calculate 1 point more because of a careful drive through or inside this hex. That's so far for the gun position. Yes, additional to a gun position, we have a very strong defense position, which is a bunker. Bunkers are very well fortified and defensible positions. For infantry units, say, and their movement inside the bunker, infantry units has a 360-degree arc of fire, and vehicles and artillery units and their movement in the terrain, they do not receive a benefit from the bunker. And this is special for the artillery units. So you would say, wow, why can an artillery unit not enter a bunker? Because it's a concrete building with a door, and artillery was used to dismount it to bring it in parts inside this building, and you have not so much time in a tactical game. So artillery units can be placed inside the bunker during a game setup only. So this is an exception. You cannot move in with them, and of course vehicles too. Artillery arc of fire is limited as shown in 9632. This is the picture I have shown regarding the flank, rear and front and arc of fire. So here is not a 360-degree arc of fire. In the bunker, artillery can only fire to the front. We made the exception for infantry with a 360-degree arc of fire because if you take a look to the bunker picture artwork, you see you have trenches, concrete trenches to the left and the right flank of the bunker, and we assume that infantry units will divide them to provide cover to every angle of that bunker. The defense impact, of course, is stated on the terrain chart. So our bunker is here above, and you see, as I told, if you have a gun, you have to place it during game setup. Otherwise, you cannot move inside to this hex, and it is stated with the movement cost for this hex. If you want to move in to that bunker, it costs you the hex value +1, but then the artillery unit is not placed inside the bunker. If you want probably moving through here to there, you cannot place it during a gameplay inside the bunker, depending of course on special rules inside a scenario description. If it's possible, I don't know, but normally you cannot move inside the bunker during a game. It has to be done in a setup. This is important, but you can use the hex as a clear terrain to move through with this rule calling For artillery, the hex value, which is 1 for clear now, plus 1, so you need 2 points. And yeah, then you have to think again, because your gun has only a movement allowance of 1, so it would have been a harsh terrain, a delayed action to move through such a hex, so would be better, I guess, to go around to save time. So this is special for the artillery units and bunkers, and you see it's stated here, infantry always end their movement, so they're using the environment of the bunker, and they have 360-degree arc of fire. Vehicles, of course, and in the hex. So this is quite a nice thing to fortify positions with infantry units or machine guns, and that's interesting. So what I want to say is, of course, even a mortar unit can be in a bunker hex and get the benefit of the defense position, and of course we assume that they will set up their mortar inside of one of these concrete trenches and places. So for infantry, a really good cover. For machine guns, a really deadly fortress. So you see it on the dice here, you have 2 reds from frontal arc and a yellow and so on. So this is a really tough nut to crack. Yeah, last but not least of the fortifications, we have, of course, a pillbox. This is a concrete machine gun nest and is excellent for giving infantry cover and taking them effective. So infantry and their movement in a pillbox. Vehicle artillery units cannot use a pillbox, so they end their movement inside the terrain. They do not receive any benefit. And for the defense impact, see the player fortification chart. So we have our pillbox here on the left side, and you see how this looks like. So it's 2 concrete bunkers with machine gun nest and a connection trench. So a really well covered environment for infantry units. You see it also on the fortification chart that you have defense values, and of course you can cross this, you can move into this hex for infantry and artillery with the hex value, and wheeled vehicle and tracked vehicle get +1 on the hex value. Unfortunately, there is a failure on the chart. They should the same value as with the bunker, hex +1, hex +1. I'm sorry for this. Okay, but that is in short the pillbox, same function as all the others, and I guess now we are through all the fortifications we have built in to that game. So let us jump over to the obstacles. So obstacles are represented by custom shaped markers, so like the fortifications, which are placed inside a hex and orientated to a specific vortex chosen by the owing player. Because of the shape, these markers do have different areas of impact and arcs of fire. See the picture in 964. Obstacles can affect units when moving across, add defense bonus, and they can affect the defense when a line of sight is drawn across them. Important. A moving unit in a hex containing obstacles is subject to reaction fire. For this reaction fire, the unit gains the defense bonus of the terrain, not the obstacle. This is the same important note as for the fortifications. So a unit gets the defense bonus of a fortification obstacle first after ending its turn. Players should check the terrain chart for the impact of obstacles on gameplay. Obstacles are stone walls, steep slopes, barbed wire, or tank barricades. So let us start with the stone walls. Stone walls are low-level obstacles and give cover for adjacent units. Stone walls have no impact on line of sight. So the movement impact for artillery units, they cannot move across a stone wall. It's fact. Wheeled vehicles units cannot move across a stone wall, but tracked vehicles must perform a check for damage for a vehicle from terrain if they want to cross. So the defense impact. Infantry and artillery units adjacent to a stone wall gain +1 yellow defense die when an enemy unit is firing across a stone wall. Vehicle units adjacent to a stone wall gain +1 green die defense when an enemy unit is firing across a stone wall. So infantry and artillery can use a stone wall for protection. Also vehicles with a green die. You see here an example in the picture above regarding a stone wall and a German machine gun behind a stone wall, and when does it get a bonus. I will show this example or another one in the tabletop simulator. So on this map tile you see a stone wall from here to here and a stone wall along the road from here to here. So you can now use this stone wall for tank, of course, and you have a terrain chart which states the effects of a stone wall. And you see on the terrain defense bonus a plus yellow for infantry and artillery and a plus green for vehicle. And you see the footnote then if loss across the wall when defending unit adjacent to the stone wall. So if now here an infantry unit fires on to that stone wall, I will draw a line of sight. So this line of sight crosses that stone wall from this area. The rifles will get, of course, a yellow additional for defense. So if a second unit is below here and it wants to fire, then you see there is no stone wall, they get not cover from it and therefore no bonus. And if this unit would have been here in the forest and we have one unit here and this unit is firing at the rifles, we cross the line across the stone wall, but this unit is not adjacent now, so it gets no bonus. And this is the same with the tank here above. If these rifles, German rifles, would have been a tank, same principle. You have to be adjacent to that stone wall to earn the bonus. And you see, of course, the movement costs. Infantry has not an additional point, just use the hex value to cross. So for artillery it is blocked, and also for wheeled vehicles. And if a vehicle, a tank, will cross that section of a stone wall, you have to pay +1. And of course you have to roll for terra damage. Be aware, these movement costs are counting only for a crossing action. So crossing means from here to here, from here to here. Also for vehicle, from here to here, from here to here. It is not, the costs are not for moving inside a hex with a stone wall, because a stone wall is to be considered to be aligned with the hex lines. So not the hex is a stone wall, but the stone wall is something besides the hex, and you have to cross to get into the next hex. So this is important to know for stone walls. Okay, let us start with the steep slopes. Steep slopes are impossible for vehicles and artillery units. Steep slopes have an impact on line of sight. You see it on the example picture. I will show it up in the tabletop simulator. Movement impact. Artillery and vehicle units cannot cross steep slopes. Infantry gets a delayed action if crossing a steep slope. So, and we have a loss impact. So vehicles and artillery units adjacent to a steep slope can see but not attack units adjacent to the same steep slope due to the steep slopes. The gun barrels cannot be depressed or elevated sufficiently to fire at adjacent targets. So I will show up this in the tabletop simulator. You can identify steep slopes by these small white arrows, and you see it of course in the artwork with these rocky areas here. So these are real steep slopes of the hill in comparison to normal slopes which you can cross rather easy in comparison. And as I told, infantry units only infantry units are able to cross that steep slope, and if they want to do it, they have always a delayed action. So this costs 2 turns time to go over such a steep slope. So always vice and versa. So if they go down, it's also a delayed action. So you can read it through the terrain chart. A steep slope gives, of course, a certain blue defense die. When firing unit and defending unit are adjacent to the same steep slope, vehicles and artillery units adjacent to a steep slope can see but not attack units to the same steep slope. So, different to infantry units can of course fire up or down a steep slope, and take into account the defender gets +1 blue die for defense if such a situation happens. Yes, that's a steep slope, and the other specialty is if you have a artillery unit or a tank which is adjacent to a steep slope, and it has an enemy unit adjacent, it's not allowed to fire with the tank to this unit. It's not able because of the steep slope. So that is one specialty of the steep slopes. But of course infantry can fire, so this could happen into cautious situations for vehicles or anti-tank guns, for example. Yeah, that's so far for steep slopes as obstacles. Barbed wire. Barbed wire is to prevent and to delay movement of units. Barbed wire has no impact of line of sight, but of course movement impact. Infantry units must spend +1 movement point to cross a barbed wire. Artillery units cannot cross barbed wire. Vehicles, including vehicles transporting artillery, but not fully tracked vehicles, must perform a check for damage to vehicle from terrain. See 9, 10 and 1. There's an example picture to show when is a unit crossing barbed wire and when not. I will show it inside the tabletop simulator. So you see now here 2 barbed wire situations inside a hex. And of course, if you are here with your unit and you want to cross, you have to count +1 for the barbed wire. You see this on the terrain chart. So for infantry units you have hex +1 if movement across the wire. Artillery units not allowed, and for wheeled vehicles hex +1, but not allowed with crossing fast action, also the tracked vehicle. And you have, if you want to cross, you have to roll for terrain damage to the vehicle. So to simulate this, it's easy. Crossing is like here, or moving from here to here, or moving from the hex to here and to here. Not crossing means if you go here to the flank or backwards. And for the vehicles, same situation. You cannot cross with a fast action, so you have to use normal action, and then you have to go here, and if you cross this section you have to roll for vehicle damage. So it's rather easy regarding the crossing of barbed wire. Tank barricades. Tank barricades are to prevent the delay movement of vehicles. Tank barricades have no impact on line of sight. Movement impact. Vehicles and artillery units cannot cross a tank barricade. Defense impact. Infantry and artillery units adjacent to a tank barricade gain one blue die when an enemy unit is firing across the tank barricade. This is like stone walls, so if you're adjacent and get fired via this tank barricade, you get a plus one blue die. And how this tank barricade looks like on the game, in the game, I have an example here. So if you tank barricades crossing this main road, and of course a vehicle cannot cross this tank barricade, it has to go around. That's the principle. And if you have infantry here and this tank wants to fire, of course, then it is possible without the defense bonus, because it's the flank of the tank barricade and not the crossing line of sight. So there is no blue die for the infantry, but if the tank would be here, the infantry gets a blue die because of a crossing line of sight. So it's rather easy. Let us take a look to the terrain chart regarding tank barricades. You see it here again, plus one blue for infantry artillery unit adjacent to a tank barricade, and you see that it is blocked for all vehicles and artillery units. So rather easy to play out. So that's so far for obstacles, and now the next part goes to the minefields. See you again.